My name is Iqbal. I'm an intervention radiologist by profession. I work at Mass General Hospital, Massachusetts General Hospital, which is the primary hospital for Harvard Medical School. And I trained there and I've been practicing there since the last decade or so.
Dr. Shams, when someone passed away in front of your eyes, what was that first moment like?
It hit me like a truck ran over me, and I cried, number one. Number two, it was almost a week before I could even smile. And I clearly remember her so well that I remember all her data to this day. And this was almost 14 years ago. It was very hard.
You want to make a contribution of sorts to your alma mater, Aligarh Muslim University. What exactly do you want to do?
We're trying to build a cancer center with all the legs involved, including palliative care also, so that you can have comprehensive cancer care in Aligarh. We don't have to send patients to Delhi.
How do you look at the journey from the humble background that you are? Do you look back at some time and do you wonder that is it really happening?
It's very easy to be cocky, but you need to be humble, and you need to keep doing what you're doing. You need to keep chasing the dream. You need to keep working hard. There's no way that you can have success with hands in your pocket. Hard work pays every time, all the time.
So right now, Shams has to go to his house, and he makes sure that his son goes to sleep, and that's his routine, which is wonderful.
Favorite time of the day.
Favorite time of the day. I have with me Dr. Shams here in Boston. He has a very interesting story, and I think the world should get to know about this story. So Dr. Shams, first of all, pleasure having you with me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And if you can please briefly introduce yourself as to what you do currently.
So thank you for the introduction. My name is Iqbal. I'm an intervention radiologist by profession, which is an image-guided procedural surgical-based field which has come out of radiology of late in the last few decades. I work at Mass General Hospital, Massachusetts General Hospital, which is the primary hospital for Harvard Medical School. And I trained there and I've been practicing there since the last decade or so. So that's pretty much in short.
Dr. Shams, you're telling something very interesting. When someone passed away in front of your eyes, what was that first moment like? When the first time someone passed away in front of you?
Yeah, so this is the first time I had this experience was when I was a fellow at the Mass General Hospital. MGH is a fellow-driven system, so the fellow does most of the work, and I was the fellow at the time. Attendings come for the crucial parts. So I talked to the patient, explained the procedure, got connected to her, and we were doing a thrombectomy, which is a AV fistula. Patients with dialysis, they tend to have a dialysis through a catheter or an AV fistula. Sometimes the AV fistula has blood clot in it, and we were supposed to take the clot out. So I explained her, told her everything, and we brought to the room OR, and we were about 20 minutes into the procedure, and we were working on the clot. And again, we never could check, but now I can pretty much guess is the clot had moved from there to the lung, and the patient suddenly died. And it hit me like a truck ran over me, and I cried, number one. Number two, it was almost a week before I could even smile. And I clearly remember her so well that I remember all her data to this day. And this was almost 14 years ago. Yeah, so it was very hard. Yeah.
Okay. So over the years, how have you dealt with the reality of mortality?
Yeah, it's a tough challenge, to be very honest. Regarding the mortality, we never get over it. It's just we get used to it. We know how to change the way we look at it. And after a few deaths, you start knowing yourself, you start knowing your coping mechanisms, you are very well versed with the system, and you know how to hide things because the show must go on. After that, usually if it's we do about 5-6 surgeries in a day. If the second one died, the third, fourth, fifth patient are still on the line, so you have to go and treat them because there's no one else to operate upon them. So being a senior attending, we have learned how to manage that. To that point, I understand how it feels as a fellow. So anytime a fellow has this thing, I reach out to them and help them cope over these things. So that's what I do personally of late.
You're doing something which is, I think, very significant. Very few people in the world maybe they're doing what you're doing. I believe you want to make a contribution of sorts to your alma mater,
Yeah.
Aligarh Muslim University. What exactly do you want to do?
Yeah, so as I was mentioning, like I am usually, whenever somebody talks about a physician or a surgeon, they associate with an organ system. I'm one of those, like I'm the only one rare kind who's not associated with an organ system. I'm associated with a technology, which is image guidance. I can use that to treat a lot of things. So most of my surgeries are minimally invasive, image guided surgeries treating cancer. As we know, like cancer is on the rise because maybe like we are diagnosing it earlier, the lag phase is gone, or the population is aging more, we have better care of the patient, so longer you live, more chance of having cancer, or the environment has changed, whatever you put it on, but there's an increased incidence of cancer across the board. So whenever there's a cancer diagnosis, it becomes a big problem. So I'm deeply into this system and I know how it works. I'm from Aligarh and I did my education from JNMCH, and we do not have a real cancer system in JNMCH. I have been helping them develop IR, which is my field. We do like one leg of the IR of the oncology. Oncology has 4 legs: medical oncology, who treat by medication; surgical oncology, who treat by chopping the organ out; radiation oncology, who treat by radiation from outside; and intervention oncology, which is what I have different means by going to the blood vessel, going straight to the tumor, burning, and we have a lot of tricks and things which we can treat with. I was dealing with my own thing only. However, I did a fundraiser like in August this year, which was like a fundraising, a long bike ride, which is to raise money for Dana-Farber Cancer Center Institute. And that gave us the idea that we have the Aligarh Muslim University Association here, Amana of North America, and I threw the idea that like why don't we raise fund and figure out a way to help AMU build a cancer center. So I was there in August. I looked at the system. They have a namely cancer center which they don't even have a linear accelerator, which is the basic need for intervention radiation oncology, and the radiation oncology works on a very old machine. So we decided that we should help build a cancer center of like really real sorts. That's a huge undertaking, and I really encourage all alma mater, like all Alighs all over the world, if they can help us out, would be a great deal, because at the end of the day, that's where we came out from. And so we are trying to build a cancer center. In short, I gave you a very long spiel, but in short, we're trying to build a cancer center with all the legs involved, including palliative care also, so that you can have comprehensive cancer care in Aligarh. We don't have to send patients to Delhi.
Okay, you were mentioning something about the palliative care. People don't realize it, but that's something which is very, very crucial. Would you like to elaborate on that?
Yeah, so what I was emphasizing on the fact that like when a cancer diagnosis is made in a family, it's not affecting just the patient. It affects the family, the social milieu, the whole family is hit hard, and it's a not only you battle the cancer, but you also battle like finances, you also battle psychology, emotions, all those things, and at the end of the day, more often than not, we lose the battle. So there's a lot of care to be taken, where like not everyone is taken care by big surgeries. You need pain management. As you might have learned from, I don't know, in book, but you have some personal experience, I believe. You have seen like people are in pain. Advanced cancer causes deep pain because it all involves the nerve, no matter where the organ system is. Pancreatic cancer is very common to cause severe pain. Liver cancer, lung cancer, all of them do the same thing. So pain management, comfort measurement. A lot of people with the bowel cancer or the like esophageal cancer, they cannot eat. They need a G tube, a stomach tube. They need like daily caring. They need a lot of like emotional support. All these things are entertained under a field known as palliative care, where by definition we send patient to palliative care when we have a sense that the patient does not have more than 6 months to live. That's one of the definitions for palliative care. So then we just care for the patient. We call it CMO, comfort measures, because we need to give them their pain medication as much as they need. We need to comfort them. We need to give them quality of life, whatever time they have, and that's very, very paramount importance. And I think in the third world, people don't understand that how important it is. It's pretty well developed in the Western world. I see we have a huge palliative care department. It's great that you raised the point of palliative care. It's so important that a lot of countries are realizing the importance of it, to the extent that in May I visited Bangladesh. The Bangladesh government had reached out to Harvard to help with a palliative oncology center, national oncology center, and the first thing we had set up in May was a palliative system. We started a school there which will train the nurses, local nurses, for 2 years to develop that, because that's the lowest hanging fruit. Because if you go, as I just mentioned about the cancer center in Aligarh, the LINAC, which is linear accelerator, which is the prima facie needed for radiation oncology, it cost $3 to $5 million, $3 million roughly. It's a huge investment. But one of the legs is, as I said, the last 6 months, every cancer patient will probably have that. I don't wish on them, but that's the truth. They all will need palliative care, and that's easiest to build. So in Bangladesh, we have started building, and the school is already in the running. So that's something very important.
Okay, what is the importance of dignity for the dying?
It's paramount. It's very important, because we as a society, it reflects upon our society how a society, again, I'm going to get a little philosophical here. A society is judged by how it deals with its weak and the invalids. The invalids criteria also involves people who are have very little time to live. The society does not value much those people who don't have much to give, and that's the category these people are. But we need to understand that these are the people who build the world we live in. So we have to be very compassionate, very careful. We need to care for their decisions. We need to care for their choices. We need to care for their comfort, and that's of paramount importance. And I see the difference what we see of such patients back home in India and what we see here. It's stark, and I would like to see a day when, before I die, when we can see the same level of care in the eastern part of the world.
Okay, so there are lots of Algerians all across the world, and many people, they want to contribute to JNMC, to AMU in more ways than one, but maybe they don't know the right causes. So would you like to appeal to fellow Algerians?
Yeah, it goes without saying.
And how do they reach out to you?
Thank you for raising this point, because it's, again, I have a very strong sense of giving back, because I came from Aligarh, and we all have a very strong sense of belonging to Aligarh, and that's why we have taken up this big task of building it. And anyone, I know there's a lot of people who have done really well in their life, who have done really well financially and in every sense of life. We need all form of donations, support, logistics, and political, psychological, and social support. Because one of the things which I want to raise is, I have a couple of people who have made big donation, but we were having trouble getting them to AMU for different reasons. And maybe there are people who are very influential, they can help us out to mitigate those challenges. And so again, as I said, support, energy, logistics, money, whatever, please help us out. And you can find me on Instagram and also on Facebook. And
what's your email ID?
My email ID, I can give you the personal one. I will not use the work one on here. The email ID is drshams241. Again, Dr. Shams 241. 241 was my room in Hadi Hasan. So this tells how strong it goes. drshams241@gmail.com. I look forward to talking to all of you. Thank you.
Okay, now, over the years, if you want to tell people, tell young doctors who may be possibly dealing with mortality, who may be having patients who may be dying in front of them, how to deal with it, what is it that they can possibly do to disassociate themselves from the entire trauma in more ways than one, and to just be sensitive, at the same time be detached?
I would recommend is the best thing which works is one is talk to someone around there, a senior. Nothing works better than talking to someone who has experience. Because this is something you learn by experience, but it's very hard to learn. And they will guide you how to go through every situation is local. Because I know one of the issues which we face in India is in addition to the loss of having a patient die in front of you, you also are afraid of the repercussion of the family, which we don't have Thank God we don't have those issues here in the West. But you have to understand the social milieu. You need to figure out how you cope yourself and use those mechanisms. Some people pray. Some people go silent. I was the silent kind. I just went silent for a week. My facial expression didn't change. Like I was just like shunted, facey. So I also like figure out who you are, how you cope, and use that and talk to people. Talking to seniors who have experienced those things is of paramount importance.
Okay, so you're talking about the fundraiser, and you are, I think, heavily into cycling and marathon running. Does it contribute in terms of reducing your stress levels, and is it something that also motivates you in any way? What does it mean to you, cycling and marathon running?
Yeah, so these endurance things, they help you a lot in controlling the stress. So when, for example, when I was biking, it was very hot that day. It was 92, 93 degrees. And after like about the first, it was 2-day race, 100 miles on the first and about 70 miles on the second day. After about like 80, 90 miles, it was almost a blur. And the only thing which keeps you going is like, hey, you're doing it for a greater cause. There are people who are dying. But if they can pull through, you can also. And that's a huge, huge impetus to help you. Otherwise, like if you just tell you to do this much bike, you'll probably give up. I'm very sure people will give. Even I might give up. But at that time, when like you're raising it for like cancer patients and for research for cancer, it was a hugely motivating thing. And also like it calms you down inside. Like it makes you more human. Let's put it this way.
It makes you more human.
Yeah.
That's an interesting way of saying it. Okay, and what is your ambition like apart from the work that you want to do for AMU, for example? What is it that is your ambition, maybe in terms of humanity?
So I as you raised the question very appropriately, like ambition for humanity. All of us, like we as a human, we desire impact. What I do right now is very impactful, but on a patient by patient basis, one patient by one patient basis. But then when we are already there, we'd like to have an impact on a greater population. So for that, I've been doing some research. I'm involved in a device development program and another program on cancer diagnosis. I'm very proud of those work which we are doing. We are trying to figure out ways of diagnosing cancer very early. One of my grants, a philanthropic grant, is on cholangiocarcinoma. Jerry's grant, like by one of my patients whose husband had died of cholangiocarcinoma, and she wanted us to do something about it. I had saved her life taking blood clot out on her lung when she was dying from a pulmonary embolism. So what we are trying to do is like, if you have a small tumor in any organ, the least count of diagnosis at this point by imaging is 1 centimeter. Below 1 centimeter, we are like kind of hedging. So after 1 centimeter, we start having some sense, okay, this is what this tumor is. And then we start targeting it by sampling, again, which is what I do. I use a small needle under imaging guidance, go take some sample out of it, give it to the pathologist who tells us what tumor it is and how to treat. But by then, like there's a roughly like for every 2 centimeter core, there's a 10,000 cells. Yeah. So the least count for the diagnosis at this day and age, which is by imaging, is 1 centimeter. Just to give some historic perspective, if you go back in the 50s, all these diagnoses were done by palpation, which is like manual feeling. So you can even miss a 3 centimeter, 4 centimeter tumor. We have come a long way, but we haven't gone like where we want to be. So by the time you have 1 centimeter tumor, you have like few million cells. And for cancer, only one cell is good enough. And we know by fact that by the time you have like millions of cells, you have shed cells in the blood vessel somewhere. So we are trying, instead of biopsying and getting the sample, my lab is using nanotechnology where we use markers by trying to figure out 1 in a billion cell. So if you have like all the RBC, WBC, macrophages, platelet, all kind of cells, and we're looking for 1 abnormal cell which has cancer markers which you can detect. And if you get successful, this will impact a lot of people, whole population of cancer. And cancer incidence, as I was mentioning to you earlier, is increasing significantly. Early diagnosis, longer life, greater technologies, all of this or whatever, and the environment has changed, so it's needed. So I hope if I'm successful, then I'll feel that I lived a meaningful life.
Great. So you come from humble background in Bengal. and you are in Boston, and it's a very prestigious work that you're doing. How do you look at the journey from the humble background that you are? Do you look back at some time and do you wonder that is it really happening?
I don't think there's any time that I lose my sight of where I'm from, because my dad died when I was 8, and it was a rather harsh upbringing, but that's what keeps me like pretty like deep rooted of who I am, because it's very easy to be cocky, but you need to be humble, and you need to keep doing what you're doing. You need to keep chasing the dream. You need to keep working hard, because there's no way that you can have success with pockets in your hands in your pocket. Hard work pays every time, all the time, and I'm a big believer of that. The rest of the things can be taken care of, but if you don't have the focus, if you don't have hard work in you, you will not get anywhere. And I think I put all the other factors like probably less than 10%, and hard work as 90% of my success, and probably most of the other people's success.
Okay, 2009 you came to US, and your wife told you that she's expecting, and you guys were not.
We came 2007 to the end, and
Yeah.
we had already started in 2008. So
2008 and
yeah.
2009 she told you that she's expecting, and
That was amazing.
what was your reaction like?
Oh, I was flabbergasted. I didn't know what to say and what to do, because I had just started my training. We were living in a basement single bed in Cambridge, right behind Harvard main campus, and we didn't have money for anything. We didn't have any primary care. So I came back from work, and my wife said, like, I feel I might be pregnant. And I'm like, oh, come on, forget about it. We can't, like, it's not possible. I was like in denial, full blown denial. Then after if it's a couple of days, like give couple of days, your physiology will take care of it. And it didn't happen, so we bought the test. Of course, the test was positive, and I was like, oh my god, we don't have any money, and first of all, we like really scrambled to get a PCP, because we needed a referral to the gynecologist, obs people. We did that, and then the ultrasound was in the very next building where I was operating as a fellow, and I was so busy that I could not go to see the ultrasound. In the evening, I came back, and my wife gave me, the heat-sensitive images they give, and I'm opening, and I can see how there's a way you give pictures for singleton, and I give a picture for doubleton. They're like, oh my god, this is, and I'm like, oh my god. And I had my sister-in-law visiting from India, and she broke into the song, "Dene wala jab bhi deta deta chapar phal gaya." And I was like, my hand was on my head, like I'm not able to afford one, and Allah is giving me two. But down the road, I think like that was one of the best thing to happen, and they're like really very strong support for me right now.
And now you have 4.
I have 4, yes. So God gave me a rough childhood, but made up much more than that down the road. So whatever I get a lot. Like I whatever I do happens in an exaggerated fashion. So the same thing, I was always about population control, and I have the most number of kids in my family. Yeah. And now I have to save my face whenever I see those people who I used to give spiels upon, like how you should not have too many kids. And guess what? I have 4. But that's like man proposes, God disposes.
A sign of prosperity as well.
Oh, you can say that.
All right.
Like,
Okay, so
you're kind.
Finally, I've known Mohsin bhai, Dr. Mohsin Alvi for a very long time, and मैंने बहुत ही रेयरली उनको देखा है कि किसी की वो इतने ज़्यादा तारीफ़ करते हो. और उनकी खासियत ये है कि वो अलीगढ़ में से कोई सीनियर जूनियर का होता है, वो उनका है नहीं. उनका ये है कि अगर कोई टैलेंटेड है तो उसके लिए ही इज़ वेरी बुलिश. एक तो मैंने अरशद भाई के लिए देखा है, दूसरा मैंने आपके लिए देखा है. ही इज़ ऑलवेज बीन कि दैट दिस गाय इज़ he's doing something that's really remarkable. So when you have people like him, for example, in your life, how motivating is that for you?
That's a great question. I have learned a lot from him. He is quite senior to me. I had never met him in Aligarh. लेकिन मैं जब यहाँ आया तो I met him in a very challenging situation. I met him a little bit like here and there. I'm rather like not very social guy. I just do my work and do my things. But I met him, and then like after 1 or 2 visits, interactions, I heard that his wife is very sick. And then that and I feel for people as you know from my patients also. So I visited his home like on a probably twice a week basis, and if you like, his wife was in the ICU for 81 days. It was a long period, and even before that, like we were interacting, and then it became very close. So we got closer, and then we got to know each other really well. And then I realized that this guy has a heart of gold. He's so true, he's so honest and so pure that like people misjudge him a lot. He's an amazing guy. It's very rare to find someone who sees the good in you and not the bad. You will find people in multitude who see bad in you and disregard your good. He's the other way around. So I think like he's too kind to me and Arshad bhai. We don't deserve that much of a praise, but he does that. I am aware, and I really like this. Like, you know, he's an amazing person, to say the least. I'm short of words to express it for him.
That's amazing. Okay, and so right now, Shams has to go to his house, and he makes sure that his son goes to sleep, and that's his routine, which is wonderful.
Favorite time of the day.
Favorite time of the day. So Shams, wonderful talking to you, and congratulations for, I think, momentous journey, and I genuinely hope that you achieve all your aspirations, and I think they're practically possible as well. Especially the AMU one, and even apart from that, they're practically possible, and I hope that happens. So thank you for the entire team over here. Thank you, Arif bhai.
Thank you,
Thank you, Maz. Thank you, Aman.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate
thank
it.
you. All the best.
Thank you.